Welcome to All Things Moore County, Moore County's weekly radio show highlighting the many facets of the Sandhills. That includes real estate, lifestyle, community and neighborhoods. And now, from 4 Properties, here's your host, Bill Sahadi.
Good morning, Dorothy. Welcome to All Things Moore County. For those of you old enough, that instrumental was very easy to recognize. John Denver's Poems, Prayers, and Promises.
Yep.
And beautiful song, and it has as much application today as it did when it was written. And there's a reason for the instrumental, and there's a reason for the title of the show. And it all has to do with my guest, Abigail Lopez, who I've had the privilege of having a front row seat in watching her these last 12 years. Through her trials, her tribulations, her successes, frustrations, and kind of I've stood in admiration of a lot of things about her. We're going to talk about the 12 years, and we're going to talk about yesterday, and we're going to then talk about today and tomorrow. So, Abbie, I'm proud of you.
Thank you.
I first met you.
Mm-hmm.
After I met, and Dorothy, you were not here at the time, but I met Abbie's mom in 2013. She came on the radio show along with the executive director of Habitat for Humanity.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I remember that.
Were you there?
Probably.
She sat at the head of the table.
Mm-hmm.
A few weeks after I met her, we all, your whole family, and we all went out for dinner.
Mm-hmm.
There was a Japanese hibachi type steakhouse, and I forgot the name of it. Do you remember? It was on on Highway 1.
Yes. I do remember. Also, thank you so much for having me on. It's an honor to be here.
Yes, it is.
But yes, I do remember very vividly. All 7 of us went.
So you have a total of 5 other siblings.
Yes, I do.
And so your mom brought you all to dinner, and I think you were 12 at the time.
Yes.
And you are in order of Solomon is the oldest.
So Gabriella is the oldest, then
Gabrielle.
Solomon, and
Okay.
then my twin brother.
Right.
My twin brother, and then Zacchaeus and Elias.
And Elias.
Mm-hmm.
And in a conversation we had, you said to me, you all were nervous going out to eat.
Yeah.
You were being raised by a single mom for all intents and purposes.
Yeah.
And it had not been something that you had done or were used to doing.
Yeah. No, we had never gone out to a real restaurant like that before. And we were all so nervous, and I changed my outfit 3 times, and all the girls were doing their makeup, and yeah. And I remember too, my brothers ordered steak, and that was the biggest thing ever. It was the event of the year for us. So yeah, I do remember.
You know, it's funny. There's an expression. Some kids are born on third base, and they act like they hit a triple.
Yeah.
They earned it.
Right. Yeah.
Your family was not born on third base. As a matter of fact, your family went through some tough times. There was a period, I guess, 3 years before I met your mom, where your family didn't even completely live together.
Yeah.
When was that, and how did that? Tell me about that.
So when my parents first split up, there was a lot of court stuff going on, and so they were trying to figure out custody stuff. And so each of us went to live with other families for about a year. So then I was enrolled in school for the first time. We were homeschooled before that.
Do you remember how old you were?
Yeah, I was 12, or I was 11. I was 11 years old.
And so, do you remember how that made you feel?
It was such a shock. Like, because I was homeschooled all my life, and it was me and my siblings. And then I started school, and I was like, what is all this? And, like, there was so much learning and stuff and trying to stay ahead and places I was falling behind. And it was a shock in a lot of ways. And, like, you know, you have your core family, and they're everything, and then you kind of have to, at 11 years old, you know, pivot and figure that out.
Did anyone explain to you what was happening and why?
It was all like, maybe, but like I was so young that I didn't get it.
Right.
I didn't get it.
Okay.
The court systems and everything.
How long were you living in a foster home?
About a year. So
About
my
a year.
fifth grade year.
Wow. Okay. But then, as it turned out, was it 2013 when you all moved into the house that you built with
Yes.
Habitat?
Yes.
Okay. And I remember actually attending that dedication.
Yeah.
It was pretty cool. You guys were, and you sent some great pictures in. I mean, you all look like a puppy litter.
Yeah.
Piled up on each other.
We do. Yeah. That was a new start for all of us as a family. That was a big pivot in my life, all of us coming back together.
I remember you've been on the show in the past. I think you were first on the show with Keegan Foyles.
Yes.
You were in middle school, I want to say?
Yes.
Or
8th grade.
8th grade. And was she a year ahead of you?
She was a year behind me.
A year behind you. Okay. So the two of you came on, and it was one of those shows that we did where we were recognizing students who were being very proactive and rising above it, so to speak. And so at an early age, you know, we had you on. And then you were on a couple of years later. We had a big round table. We had Mason Roth here. We had Emma Meissen and
Yeah.
Alex.
Yeah.
And we had your brother Titus. And you were sitting at the head of the table. Emma was sitting at the corner.
Yes.
And I have a photograph where she was answering a question, and she raised her hand like it was shot up from a cannon.
I loved her excitement always, yes.
Right, her
that
passion.
Sounds right.
So that was maybe 7 or 8 years ago. A couple of weeks ago, just to tell you how this things go full circle, I was up in New York visiting my siblings, and lo and behold, Emma is now a high school senior.
That's crazy.
And her mom called me and said, hey, we're going to be up in New York. I'm taking Emma to the city in March. I would love to see you. And I said, I'd love to see you guys too. I hadn't seen her since she was like 11 or whatever.
Yeah.
So we took a cruise around Manhattan, and I called you. And I said, I'm going to call you when we're there because Emma would love to speak with you. You were, by her own admission, you were a huge role model to her, as you were to many. And even Emma's mom, Nico, remembers. How many years has it been since they were here? Do you remember? 6, 7
Yeah.
years?
6 or 7 years, yeah.
So you started out as probably the most popular babysitter in Moore County. Every parent raved about. They fought over you. It was like a lottery where they had to take a ticket. And the reason that they did was because you played and interacted with the children. You didn't just sit there and get on your iPhone. I mean, you were very interactive.
Thank you. Yeah, absolutely. And I think, like, growing up with so many siblings, like, that's what we did. Like, we played around with each other. And so, like, it just felt like an extension of that. So I loved it. I loved every minute of it.
So I was sitting across from Emma when she was on the phone with you. But this was back in March. And, you know, she lit up. And she's a great young lady.
Oh, she is. Yeah.
I mean, personality and pizzazz. And you were probably one of her first role models. You know, I want to be like Abbie. And so you had that, you know, effect on people. You were a good student. You you graduated Pinecrest in 2018.
Yes, 2018. With my twin brother.
That's right.
Yes.
When did you know
Mm-hmm.
during your high school education that you were going to move on to a career that would eventually land you as a doctor of occupational therapy? How did that? Because you went to UNC.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Tell me about the whole process, because you got a scholarship.
Yes, I did. I first want to touch on you saying, like, when did I know?
Yeah.
I never, so I always had a dream to be an occupational therapist. Occupational therapists often work with people with disabilities, and my youngest brother, Elias, has Down syndrome and autism, and so that's, how I got really interested and passionate for that. But the education of it, like, you need a master's at least to practice in it, and that seemed so daunting. So even though I made up my mind, like, at 7 years old, I was like, I want to be an occupational therapist. Like, this is what I want to do. I didn't believe that I could carry that into fruition. So even as I graduated high school, like, I was like, I don't know if I can get into school, like, all of these things. But I kept going, kept trying, like, what if I can? So then that took me, so I started out at Sandhills after high school and was able to work and do that.
Right.
And then a friend told me that UNC had what they called a C-STEP program for low-income students to help them apply to Carolina. And I was like, I don't think I could ever get in there, But I was like, I'll try. So then I applied to that and then received a scholarship through that program as well. And then graduated from UNC in human development.
So without having the ways and the means, you were able to get a scholarship.
Mm-hmm.
Did you have to take any loans out for that undergraduate?
I did not.
That's crazy. So you were able to.
I was blessed.
So you got a degree in 2021 for human development?
Yes.
Okay. Tell me what human development means, because
yes,
that's so general. Okay.
So it is very general. So it just kind of goes over, like, human development across the lifespan. So from birth to death, so pediatrics to geriatrics. And then, like, the anatomy behind that, the sociology behind that, like, the psychology behind that, which is a good precursor for occupational therapy.
Yeah.
It's one of the degrees that you can get as a precursor to that.
Your relationship with your youngest brother, Elias.
Yeah, Eli.
Eli. So you guys are very close.
Oh, yeah.
How old is he now?
He's 19.
That's hard to believe.
I know, isn't it hard to believe? Oh, but yes. He was, we shared a room growing up, me, my mom, and Eli. Yeah, he's been my best friend always. He's my inspiration for everything. I wouldn't have gotten into the career if it wasn't him for anything.
So he was part of your initial or your strong.
Yeah.
Okay, but you were also the most nurturing to him. I think than anyone else in your family. I mean, you were almost like a second mom, where you helped him and assisted him.
Yeah, we bonded very, very closely, and I think too, like, based on age range, because my sister was older and my brothers were older, and so it just kind of worked, and we clicked, and two peas in a pod. We did everything together.
How did you, without having maybe the ways and the means of a lot of the kids you went to school with?
Yeah.
Going back to Pinecrest, how did you self-motivate yourself? How did you, without having the promise of having something at the end of the rainbow, how did you get up every day? What was your thought process? What were you trying to build in your head? Fill me in on all of that.
So, two things. I want to say my faith, but I'll come back to that. First, when you were saying, like, having different means of kids in my school, that took a toll on my confidence, but mostly because, like, some of the houses we would clean would be students that I went to school with. So I would be, like, knocking on their door being like, excuse me, can I come clean your bathroom? And these are kids that I sit beside in math class. And so, like, that dynamic, a lot of the kids were very nice, and, they didn't make jokes at school or whatever the case was. But that definitely took a toll on my confidence and my ability to,
That you didn't belong, or that you.
yeah. Or in high school when social standing is everything, and like,
Right.
yeah,
So where did you get the resolve
yeah.
to fight through it?
I was raised that way.
Yeah, you were.
My mom, I mean, she had 6 kids and a full-time job. Like, she just showed me what it was like to pivot and wake up and get at it and do all of it some way, somehow. And her fight every day. And like I say, I shared a room with my mom and Eli, so I saw it up and close firsthand, like just getting up and doing all of it. So really, yeah, just my mom, seeing her as a role model really inspired me to be able to do that.
We want to come back in the second set. I want to speak a little bit about your mom, because she's an amazing lady.
Oh, she is.
And she's one of the things I admire the most about your family is that none of you have a sense of entitlement.
That's a
None
curse
of you.
word in my family.
That's yes.
To my mom. That's like that's the most disgusting thing you can be to her.
To your mother's credit,
Yes.
she has raised really honorable children that don't think the world owes them a favor. You included.
She said the only thing you're entitled to in life is hard work. That's what she used to say.
She sounds like my father.
Yeah. Yeah.
He used to put a big 0 in front of me and said, "This is what the world owes you."
Death and taxes.
And he said, "Don't complain."
Yeah.
Abigail Lopez is our guest for the entire hour. We're going to talk about her education, where she is today. This is All Things Moore County. We'll be right back. Welcome back to our second set of All Things Moore County. Abigail Lopez is our guest. We're revisiting the last 12 years of her life. She's the ripe old age of 24 right now, and you have 5 siblings. We were talking about your mom, and they range in ages from 19 to 28. Tell me a little bit about your family.
My family. We're all incredibly close, which is nice. So we were all homeschooled up until we were about like middle school age. So we were able to have that really close foundation. So we're all very close. But I'll start with my oldest sister, Gabriella. She is a firecracker. She's a very strong woman, strong in herself, and she always encouraged me to be that way. And she like goes out and gets what she needs to. She went to NC State. She went to Sandhills and transferred to NC State, and that gave me the confidence when I was young, to believe that I could also go to college and do that. So she's an inspiration in that way. And then my older brother Solomon, he is so peaceful and hardworking at the same time, which is not a usual combination. But his business has taken off, and he's a very hard worker, and he's dedicated. And he and his wife are expecting at the end of August.
He was a guest on our show a couple of months ago. He has a business called the Crawl Space Carpenter.
Yes, he does.
He is doing very well. I get rave reviews from my clients when I refer him.
I believe it.
He's cost effective. He's articulate. He's he's the whole package.
Yeah. When you talk to him, you feel like you're talking to a spiritual director.
Oh yeah, I feel like I'm at church.
Yeah.
I'm sitting in the pew and just listen.
Yeah. He's a very spiritual guy.
You have a twin brother.
I do, yes. Titus.
Yep.
He has a wife and 2 children. He's in the military. But he always had a very strong sense of humor. And he's a hard worker as well. I mean, all of my siblings are.
Yep.
But yeah, he's a ranger in the military.
Yep.
He's worked very hard to be there. And then I have my younger brother, Zach. He is 22, which is also crazy to say. But he's also in the military. He's also a ranger. Also, of course, hardworking. And I see him. He was here recently. We got to hang out.
Yep.
And then my youngest brother, Elias.
Right.
He has Down syndrome and autism, and he is 19.
How did your mother?
The answer is I don't know how, but if that's where you're going.
You know, when you think of a family with 6 children
Mm-hmm.
and a single parent
Yeah.
and not a lot financial
Yeah.
support, your mother, I mean, she takes my breath away.
She does.
How she has reinvented herself over the years,
Oh, yeah.
and she used to be hard. You know, she was hard on herself. Oh,
I
my
know.
kids. Just the opposite should be true,
I know.
because of how who she's raised, how she has raised you all.
Yeah.
You, you've got to have a lot of admiration for her,
Oh, I do.
right?
I can't imagine doing it myself, and she did it flawlessly. And like the biggest thing that I appreciate, so like I said, she's a single mom, so she also provided for our family, and we did that through cleaning houses in the area. And so we all did that together. And so she found something that worked, that we could still maintain that family time, and all of us did it together and could contribute, and that really taught us a lot of great values, and just being together as a family. So yeah, she's so impressive. Yeah.
Between your sister's inspiration when she went to NC State
Mm-hmm.
and the confidence that your mother somehow instilled in you,
Yeah.
you were able to secure that scholarship to UNC.
Mm-hmm.
You graduated there in 2021.
I did, yes.
And were able to then actually consider something you probably thought would never happen. And tell me a little bit
Yeah.
about the next step.
To Duke University?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I began I applied only to Duke at the time. And I didn't think that I would get in. I was like, oh, shit,
How can, I mean, first question is,
Yeah.
how could you even afford to look
Yeah.
at Duke
Right.
financially?
So I didn't even know. I honestly didn't know how much, because I hadn't paid it at UNC. I didn't really know in over my head. But when I got in, and then I kind of looked at the finances of everything, and they offered a partial scholarship, which was nice. And then I took out some loans for the rest. But I was able to. So I'm currently a live-in nanny. And so to a 21-year-old boy with Down syndrome, autism, and epilepsy, Joshua.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've lived with them for 3 years while I've been at Duke University.
So how did you
Mm-hmm.
make that happen? Because now you have your room and board
Mm-hmm.
being paid
Yes,
for.
and food, bless the Lord.
So how did that all happen?
Honestly, it just all happened in line. I mean, I really appreciate it. Really feels like a blessing. But I was just scrolling through care.com. I knew that I wouldn't be able to afford room and board and everything going to school there. I mean,
Right.
so then I was like, okay, well, I can be a live-in nanny, because I nannied and I cleaned houses all through UNC and all through school. So I was like, I can do this.
Mm-hmm.
And so then I applied, and I found the family, and we matched up, and I've lived there for 3 years. They're an amazing family.
So you have, and I want to talk about them as well.
Yeah.
So you have managed to get through Duke
Mm-hmm.
in, was it 3 years, 2.5 years?
3 years, yes,
Okay.
by the grace of God.
And you're walking away with a $100,000 loan.
Yes.
Okay. Which is a lot less
Oh, yeah.
than a lot of people.
A lot less. I'm really blessed to be walking away with that. Typically, it would be about 200 or more.
Okay.
So I'm blessed to be in that situation.
Tell me about Joshua's family and parents, and
Yeah.
the relationship that you forged.
Mm-hmm. They are also a very peaceful, spiritual family, so I'm very lucky to be with them. But they've been so great to me over the years.
Abbie, do you think they consider themselves lucky to be with you as well?
I would hope so.
I would too.
I would
Mhm.
hope so.
Okay.
But yeah, so like I mentioned, Josh has epilepsy as well as Down syndrome, so I take care of him at nights. So we sleep together, and then during the day and stuff, and I swap out with his parents. But he's great. He uses a iPad to communicate, and he writes poetry, and tells jokes, and he's he's a trip. He's hilarious.
Did you interview for the job while you
Mm-hmm.
were a student at Duke? No, at UNC?
So I
Or
just graduated. I actually interviewed for it like a couple weeks before I started Duke.
Okay.
But I knew that I needed a live-in position somewhere.
And they obviously spoke to other people as well.
I believe so. Yes. So, yeah, they're a great family. They really are.
And are they educators?
Yes. So, Josh's mom, she's a homeopathic physician, and then Josh's dad he's a CEO of a Domtar personal care company.
Okay. So you're now at Duke, and you're focused on getting a doctorate in occupational therapy.
Yes.
And you feel that choice that was made by you completely unencumbered, and it was just something you were going to pursue.
Yes, it's something that I wanted to do since I was 7 years old. Like I said, I got into it because Elias had a really good occupational therapist that worked with him.
Okay. And you got to observe that and see the progress that was made.
And she would come to the house and work with him.
And you just graduated a couple of weeks ago.
I did.
There were some great pictures.
Yes.
And there was
surreal, totally surreal.
Well, the title, Poems, Prayers, and Promises, for you, all your years, you are always thinking and writing and talking and trying to honor others, and also you were on this self-improvement kick all the time. And, and you would, the written word was important to you, and you were very expressive, and you would always try to bring the people into your circle who you cared for, and you were very caring to them. The prayers come from your faith and your deep-seated beliefs.
Yes. So I was blessed to be raised in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In spite of sometimes what the environment may have thrown your way.
And that's the only way you can, you know what I mean? You have to have some sense of something that you believe in and resiliency in this world. Life's too hard.
But the discipline to do that, not a lot of people have that discipline because you've got to do it consistently all the time.
Well, my mom showed me that. She was very disciplined about her faith and spirituality, so I was able to see that.
The promises come from the discipline you've shown, and you've had a backdrop of adversity and obstacles, and yet you never let it sully your view of the world. You chose to be optimistic and always look at the possibilities and the openings and the light, not the darkness, and you will your way through it, right?
Yeah. That's because of my mom and my brother. I mean, that's how my mom sees the world, and Eli too. So, like, just always looking at that hope and finding the positive things in life. So
let's come back in the last set. I want to talk a little bit about where you're going from here. And I've got a couple of, I love doing this. I have some affirmations I want to share with you.
Okay.
And get your take on them.
All right.
Abigail Lopez is our guest. This is All Things More County. We'll be right back. Welcome back to our final set of All Things More County with our guest, Abigail Lopez, who is at the beginning of going on to a career as an occupational therapist. We don't think it's going to be in North Carolina, but which is a good thing, because you need to travel, you need to see a lot of the world. And I don't think you were but 15 or 16 until you flew in a plane.
Yeah.
And you went to New York City.
Yeah.
And were you 15 or 16?
I was 16.
Okay.
I was 16, yeah.
And prior to that, you had never traveled?
No, yeah, that was my first flight. That was such a big deal. I felt like the world was opening up.
Manhattan was probably a big eye-opener for you.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd never seen anything like it.
Okay, so you are now at the beginning of a new chapter in your life. You've come a long way from the time you were living with a foster family before your family got reunited. And you told me a story once, and I never forgot it. I think where you were living, maybe it was when you were with the foster family, you would drive on Chicken Plant Road.
Yeah, well, we used to live out there with my mom. We lived
Okay.
on Chicken Plant Road, and we left that. We were homeschooled at the time, and so we would leave the house once a week on Sundays because gas is so expensive, right? Especially for a big van to carry 8.
That's
So anyway,
right.
but the route to go to church and then like go to in town, we would always pass Elliott's, and they have like these huge big windows, and it's just like super upscale restaurant. But I always like saw all the like beautifully dressed women in the windows and like with like their hair done and like earrings and stuff, and I was like, and as we would pass it, I was like, one day maybe that'll be me. Like, anyway, so that was a dream of mine for a while.
You're close to realizing a lot of your dreams, I think.
Yes.
And it's
Doesn't
funny.
feel real.
Huh?
It doesn't feel real.
Well, but you feel proud of yourself at this point?
Of course, and proud of my community, and like I feel already like it's a life I never saw myself living.
Uh-huh. And yet now you're still working with Joshua. You're going to
Yes.
stay with him for how long?
I'm gonna stay and work with him through September.
Okay.
And then I study and take my boards through that time, and then apply to jobs. And
Okay, so you have to take the boards,
yes, I do.
and
A
then
board exam, a state exam, and a national exam.
and from there you then become you go into the marketplace.
Yes, I do.
So how does that process work for you? You're going to be putting together a resume and submitting it to different
Yes.
hospitals? You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I'm just nervous.
Well, you've overcome a lot going forward. There's
Thank you.
nothing to think that you
Yes.
can't overcome. It's change. It's just
Yeah.
pivot, accommodate. Isn't that what your mom taught
Absolutely.
you?
Yeah.
Pivot, accommodate.
Uh-huh.
And that's what you still, and we do that all our lives. I mean, I have to tell, it doesn't stop.
Yeah.
It truly doesn't stop.
Yeah. I'm very excited too. Just to be able to finally work the job that I dreamed of as a child. So yeah, so I'm gonna start submitting applications to hospitals and based upon like patient populations that I want to see, because I want to see a variety of patients like initially coming out of school, because as you go on with your career, typically you would specialize. So I would want to see pediatrics, geriatrics, people with disabilities, and
You
then
want-
some arm fractures above the waist.
Talk about the difference between occupational therapy and physical therapy.
Yes, absolutely. Well, first I'll tell you a little bit about occupational therapy. So, occupational therapy at its core is a focus on your daily tasks, your ability to do your daily tasks, going to work, driving, dressing, bathing, all that stuff.
Okay.
But also in the medical world, so in a hospital, we operate against physical therapy, or we do it together, but they kind of separate it based on the body. So physical therapy would be anything from the waist down, and then occupational therapy would be anything from the waist up. So if you have a hand fracture, arm fracture, elbow fracture, shoulder, or stroke, so then we would focus on your ability to, say you just need to go back to work, or even just
Right.
bathing, or even caregiving. We would kind of work on those neural pathways to kind of get that going again.
Okay. So it's interesting. Before we started the show, you were having a conversation with Dorothy, our engineer.
Yes.
And I mean, minutes before we started the show, and you saw she had this looked like one of those kinesiology
tape, yes.
bands on. Okay, on her forearm.
Yes.
And I hadn't noticed it until you did. Tell me about that conversation you had with her.
Well, I noticed that it was on her thumb, and Dorothy, I know you're listening too, but I was concerned because I was like, I didn't know if it was a fracture or a nerve strain or something, because usually when the tape is on that area, it's that nerve that runs up.
Yeah.
But further talking a little bit, it sounds like it could be an early case of carpal tunnel. So I'll talk to her more about it when it's over.
Yeah. Do you think a lot of that has to do with the motor activities we use
Oh yeah.
with computers and
Yes.
mouses and different cell phones and
Phone scrolling,
our
yeah.
gadgets?
Oh yeah. And I say and I said this earlier, I think a lot of my generation is going to have carpal tunnel in their thumbs because
Right.
of the phone scrolling.
Right.
But yeah, just that repetitive activity causes a lot of inflammation and pain in that area.
So the occupational therapy part of it is it's not that you see someone after a surgery. It's that you work with somebody who has an ongoing condition that you just need to modify.
So we do both.
Okay.
So it's hard because it's so broad, because it's hard to explain, because occupational therapy fills different gaps in the whole picture of medicine.
Okay.
So we see people after surgery, like after hip surgery or shoulder surgery, whatever that is, rehabbing that. But we also see like cognitive disabilities or strokes or so. So that's how I got into it, right? Is like my brother with Down syndrome. So working with him on toileting or riding or that kind of stuff. But also having clients on stuff with their hands or elbows, for example, if you had like a finger fracture or a carpal tunnel. Or it's hard because it's so broad. But yes, it's very broad. I hope I explained that well.
You did.
Okay.
Very well. And very enthusiastically.
Yes,
by
I'm
the-
very enthusiastic about it.
So the intonation in your voice, certainly speaks to that. You know, sometimes people need affirmations. They need to coach themselves. They need to keep themselves on the balls of their feet moving, you know. And sometimes there are thoughts that come up and they're like snippets. And I just throw a few at you and just feel free to freely associate.
I'm all ears.
This is for you. Be yourself. Everyone else is taken.
Yeah. I feel like I'm still learning this. And of course, I'm in a different place than I was when I was younger. But just listening to your own intuition and just saying truly what's on your mind and honoring yourself in that way, and not trying to, as a chronic people pleaser, not trying to formulate yourself in a way that's you know, think would best present to that person or the situation. Just being yourself,
And having the confidence to just be yourself and not worry about what people may be thinking.
Yeah.
You're doing what's in the best interest of everybody in the room. You are. Okay. Here's one.
Yes.
You're going to go through tough times. That's life.
Of course.
But I say, nothing happens to you. It happens for you.
Yes. Absolutely. And I think that mindset in life is like gonna set you up for success, like, and your resilience or your ability to overcome things, like seeing the things in life as opportunities for pivoting or trying something different, versus, you know, having a mindset of things happening to you all the time. Yeah.
Michelle Obama said this.
Oh, love her.
Success is only meaningful and enjoyable if it feels like it's your own.
Wow.
Now, I mean, you have given credit to everybody in your sphere today, and you should. But do you ever sit back and want to say, you know, I've done this, I've achieved this, and I've created this, this blueprint, and you're the author of the blueprint. Yes, you had a ton of support and a ton of help, but you had to execute.
Yes.
Okay.
I do agree.
Okay.
But I believe that, you know, no man is an island. And I do think that we're able, of course, with that support, kind of what we do with that support. But we are not without our support. But yes, honoring our own.
So what? So you have achieved
Yes.
in 12 years from the time I've known you. you've had a ton of successes. You've had a lot of frustrations. You've had a lot of learning lessons
Yeah.
as you've gone, but you have gotten to a point of accomplishment, and you should be recognized for that. And nothing wrong with saying thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. And there are a lot of people who are very proud of you.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, there are.
So you now are going to move forward, and you do have your goals are to relocate, possibly in the Southwest.
Yes.
And why the Southwest?
So I want to practice as a bilingual therapist. And so just kind of working on, for the next 2 years, like cleaning up my Spanish and hiring private tutors to that. Because also speaking Spanish is one thing, but also speaking Spanish inside the context of medicine and understanding the body and the movements of a body is another thing. So, and there are private tutors for that as well. So anyway, so particularly in the Southeast too. And then my dad's side of the family lives out there as well.
So part of your descent is Mexican.
Yes.
And so the part of that is to honor that part of your
Yes.
family as well.
Yes.
That's very noble. I mean, and being bilingual also will make you even more valuable than I think you
as
already
a therapist.
already are. Can't tell you how proud I am of you.
Thank you.
And I know the next couple of months you're going to be hanging around North Carolina, getting everything organized for the boards,
Yes.
and moving forward. But from the time you sat here at this table and a couple of radio shows when you were in middle school to today, what an ascension and what a great rise. And there's nothing but great things in front of you, and your enthusiasm is contagious.
Thank you.
So I'm just going to say appreciate you as a friend, and I admire what you're doing. Don't stop, and just be yourself.
Thank you.
Right?
Thank you for having me on, Bill. It's an honor, and for you to have me on and kind of let me tell my story. So thank you.
It's a great story. Abbie Lopez, thank you for coming in, and we'll close, obviously, with John Denver's Poems, Prayers, and Promises. Have a great week. Thank you.